When teachers examine homework, why is so much of it just basic crosses and ticks? Because wham, teachers often mark homework in their own time at home. They don't actually do it during school time, and they don't do it during paid hours. They have to do a ton of work at home, normally while sat on the sofa eating dinner or prepping for the next day, which means when you've got 30 bits of homework for every class to get through, and you might have 7 or 8 classes, you suddenly have hundreds of bits of homework to mark, which means that you have to go through it very quickly and very efficiently. You do not, unfortunately, have time to give everyone the individual focus that they would deserve. And when teachers go, oh, I bet it's really fun that you get 3 months paid, 3 months holiday in one go. When you actually average the amount of hours that the average teacher works, that 3 months is nowhere near enough free time. So unfortunately, one of the reasons that so much feedback is not personalized or focused is because generally teachers are asked to do a huge amount of work for a relatively small amount of pay compared to the amount of work they're doing, and they're expected to do it in their free time as well. The best response, if you are a teacher and someone goes, oh man, I'd love to be a teacher, I'd love to get 3 months off, the best response is to just say, oh, we are hiring. We are looking for people. I can get you an application right now. And suddenly, when people are faced with the actual reality of dealing with kids, oh, that 3 months, that doesn't seem like enough. So many people will sit there and take the piss out of teachers having an amazing life, and yet nobody seems to want to do it. Imagine dealing with Twitch chat every day, but smaller. Why aren't I a teacher? You get paid more to be a Twitch streamer. Turns out that the 3 months off you get as a teacher, not as good as the whatever you want off as a streamer. You had a friend who trained to be a teacher and then ended up quitting because the paperwork was too much for them. Yeah, that seems about average. Tell you the tales of the teacher's room, the staff room. Do you wish to know what happens in the staff room, the mysterious teacher's room? The door that you would occasionally knock on during lunch when you had to go and fetch someone specific. Do you want to know what happened in that room? Very, very little. Let me explain the truth. It is the only room that does not inherently have children in it because of the fact that it is a school. There are uncomfy chairs and some sofas. There are tea and coffee making facilities. And there is not enough space to get any of your actual preparation work done. Because most teachers that do their actual preparation work will sit in their classrooms and do the work there. The staff room, any decent biscuits, there were until someone eats them all, and it's always the geography teachers. It is the only place in the entire school with a bathroom that you don't mind doing a poo in. That's the truth. That's all it is. The teacher's room is literally a small oasis, a small haven that hasn't been touched by the lawless wasteland of children. What about English teachers? Oh, you mean boring drama teachers? They're fine. There is a hierarchy within the teaching school. And I'm sorry to tell you this, but there absolutely is. There are certain teachers that get more or less respect. Science teachers tend to be at the top of the pile, especially if it's a school that is divided into physics, biology, and chemistry. They get the respect. The physics, the biology, the chemistry teachers, because they actually know stuff. Then you tend to get maths. Maths and physics teachers get on really well because they're basically teaching the same thing. Then you tend to have what people refer to as the second tier, which is normally the earth sciences like history and geography. If you have a big school, you can fill it in with RE, or religious education, if you want to go for that as well. Now, some people say that's just one subject. In certain schools, the sciences are divided into physics, biology, and chemistry. When I did my GCSEs, which is showing how old I am, I did an individual physics, chemistry, and biology GCSE. What is a GCSE? General Certificate of Secondary Education. Some people would say high school diploma. Now, you've also then got so at the very top, you've got the teachers with actual real, proper qualifications. Biology, chemistry, physics, science, maths. That's all focused. Then you've got the maths teacher, maths teachers are definitely superior to history, geography, and religious education teachers. But I don't think science teachers fully accept them. That's how it works. Like, the science teachers will look at the maths teachers with a level of, we will accept you now, but when the rebellion comes, you're with the history teachers. Then below that, you've got the PE teachers. Now, the PE teachers are normally either absolute creeps or completely chill. It's very difficult that you find somebody in between. Like the PE teachers, either like super cool dudes that you really like, or absolute creep. Sometimes you think they're one, then you find out they're the other. Sometimes you think they're an absolute, because most people will think, oh, what you mean is that you think they're lovely, then it turns out they're an absolute creep. Honestly, weirdly, I've often found it the other way around. I've thought, wow, that guy's definitely a perv. And then you realize, actually, no, they're giving a huge amount of their own time to coach so many different teams, and they're putting a load of different outside time into work. And I'm like, no, actually, that guy's super cool. That guy's like really caring about these kids' educations. That's fantastic. Remember that Hugh Jackman was an English teacher as well, which says a lot. I had some really good PE teachers at school. One of them was an ex-boy band member from a small-time 90s boy band. I do not remember which band it was at all because he refused to talk about it. But he occasionally did some singing in the school talent contest and was just really bloody good at it. Yeah, Hugh Jackman was a teacher. In fact, was he a PE teacher or an English teacher? Because there was you can find this still online. There is a clip of Hugh Jackman recognizing one of the paparazzi that's interviewing him as an ex-student of his, and he asks him how his education is still going. He's like, guys, no more education, no more questions. I'm bothered about you. How is your education going? Like, he just focuses in on this guy, which is brilliant. And that just shows you never stop being a teacher with that. Super wholesome. So PE teachers, either massive creeps or super wholesome, really nice guys. Now, there are two more types that unfortunately sit on the outskirts of all of these, and they are the art teachers and the drama teachers. Now, as an ex-drama teacher, I of course have input and feelings on this, and I think I need to share with you something. Drama teachers think art teachers are weird. Art teachers think drama teachers are weird. But we have both collectively decided to have an uneasy truce because no other teachers will accept us. Music teachers, yeah, I lump those in with the art teachers. What about the woodworking teacher? Right, you guys went to a posh school. Yeah, drama teachers and art teachers got on together, and I think art teachers were the only type of teachers that you knew exactly what they were going to be teaching before you met them. Like, they dress quite eclectically, they dress quite weirdly. You can look at someone and go, yep, that's an art teacher right there. In fact, there's even a Family Guy clip, and I hate how accurate this is. There is a Family Guy clip of when Peter goes to leave the house and he's wearing jeans, a white shirt, and a waistcoat. And Chris says, Dad, why are you wearing a waistcoat? And he replies, I'm wearing a waistcoat because I'm an actor who teaches drama at a local college that isn't in LA or New York. And I'm like, you son of a bitch. You can Google it. It is spot on. It is absolutely incredibly annoyingly accurate. The first time I saw that, I had to pause it. I was laughing too much. I'm like, God damn it, Family Guy. You've got it. But yeah, the teacher meta. The teacher meta is definitely there. Now, some people will say, what about language teachers? Sorry, I didn't realize you all went to posh schools. Language teachers tend to just hang around with themselves. Jeans, white shirt, and a waistcoat. They had my number. Like, I look like a drama teacher. You know that. Like, if I walk into a school just dressed as I normally dress on Twitch, the headmaster would probably ask me why I'm not teaching. But yeah, the school teacher meta is very true. Science at the very top. Maths just underneath it. History, geography, and RE under that. PE teachers doing their own thing, either great or terrible. Drama and art teachers hanging out together. Music can be thrown in there every now and again. And language teachers doing their own thing. But there are cliques that form, without a doubt. If you guys think that teachers are less dramatic than students, you are wrong. There is just as much interpersonal drama and strife within the educational system at a professional level as there is at a student level. And sometimes one of the reasons that this is because teachers spend the majority of their working day around kids being immature. Which means, unfortunately, some of that behavior is going to rub off on you. If you spend your entire day interacting with awkward, irritating, annoying kids, you are going to have some of those behaviors become imbued within you. It's gonna happen. I've had teacher friends of mine, once they have, left work for the day and come to hang out, still have the teacher voice on. There was a moment when I was with a friend a couple of years ago and we were going to cross the road. And she literally turned to me and went, wait. And I'm like, what? And she went, oh, shit, sorry. I thought I was still with my class and I thought I was walking primary school kids across the road. And I'm like, no, do it again. Because that was just how focused they were with it. I've only ever done this once, but I have genuinely been in a situation, I think it was once, it may have been twice, but my friends did not like it, where if people are talking over each other, I will just go, fingers on lips! And a few people in the group do just kind of instinctively go, you can do it. English school kids are inherently trained. We're ingrained with this ability. We have to do it. You can do it. You can shout inside voices, and people will shut up. You can do it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, traumatized is another word for it. That works too. But there's an inherent power that you do have. You can bring to heel if you need it to. You once had a chemistry teacher starting drama with a biology teacher because the bio teacher's subject was so overly done that the students were terrified asking for the chemistry teacher's time of her own class to study for the bio tests. It's the great thing about drama teaching, and this is the reason that drama teachers and art teachers have kind of got together. In maths, you can be inherently right or wrong. Like, there is a correct or an incorrect answer to a maths problem. In drama and in art, it's very subjective. Like, you can ask an objective question like, who is Stanislavski? But then you ask a much more subjective question like, what is the best method of preparation or memorization for a script? And that changes based on the individual person. So you kind of need a drama or an art teacher who are willing to work with the students and be like, look, there is no right or wrong answer to this. What we're bothered about is how you get through the process. And it irritates me that maths is starting to encroach on our territory, because the point of drama and art is to show that an individual is able to go through the artistic process of learning something about themselves. And when maths is like, what is the answer? That's fine. And then maths gets into all of the show you're working. No, maths, that's our thing. You can have your objective answers. Drama and art, we are the ones that care about the process. Just take your little numbers and be happy with it. Leave the process to us. Right, that's some deep-seated trauma right there against maths. But in general, art and drama are the ones that care about the process more than anything else. You know what, that's true. I think maths needs to rein its neck in a little bit, because it's even starting to encroach into letters, which is English's territory. When I say English, I mean any study of the languages. Maths is like 1, 2, 3. All right, yeah, cool. I'm on your side, math. All right, solve this equation. A, B, C. Hang on, slow the fuck down, math. What are you doing? You've got numbers. You've got literally all of the numbers. By their very nature, they are in fact unlimited. You have an infinite amount of things to play with. You do not need to be bringing letters into this. That's our territory. Math is a language. All right, sorry, math teacher. Didn't realize we'd got the mathematicians in with us. They're even using Greek letters. They're encroaching on history. They're getting too big for their boots. Just go back to watching old episodes of El Nombre and calm down. It's all kicking off in the school. This is what happens. I was lying. The teacher's room isn't just about having the nice toilet. It's about basically a massive battle royale of which subject is the most important. I'll tell you what the most important subject isn't, as an absolute guarantee, according to the government, drama. If ever there needs to be cuts in a school budget, drama and art will get cut the first, because the government go, you don't really need drama and art, do you? While they're watching their opera or Shakespeare play or going around their lovely art gallery. They're like, nobody needs this. While they're also watching all their films and reading all their books and listening to all their music. They're like, this isn't really important, is it? While lockdown had everyone watching Netflix and Amazon Prime and YouTube the entire time. Yeah. Basically useless. You forgot where IT and IT design fit in. Yeah, but so did they. English schools tend to have drama as a class in the majority of the actual schools. And I think that drama is very much a process-focused thing. And the reason that I enjoyed teaching it so much was that it allows me to connect with a student who is struggling to understand who they are and how they fit into the world in general, and give them a way to interact with the world or ideas they have about the world through a process that helps them understand their place within it. And to me, that's extremely important. But I am also aware that it is very difficult to objectively grade anything dramatic or artistic, which is why the government tend to cut it pretty bloody quickly whenever they need to. That is also what parents should be doing. Yeah, straight up, without a doubt. I've explained before the value of drama lessons. And people don't understand that it's not just about memorizing a script. It's about learning to interact with people. It's about learning to take part in a process that you may struggle with and find difficult. How do I feel about university staff? Wham, that is a good question. So the purpose of university is to provide sports for the alumni, parking for the facility, and sex for the students. That's pretty much, when you break it down, they're the priorities. University staff are often some of the most self-absorbed people I've had to work with. What about student finance? We don't talk about them. I have a student loan. My plan to pay it off is just to die. Like, that's plan A. Oh yeah, I'm going to clarify that that's sex with each other. All right? Not with the faculty. Although, I do remember... when I was studying performing arts, I ended up assisting in some of the lessons with some of the... When I was like a third year before I graduated, I would assist with some of the lessons that the first years did. And in order to do that, we had to sit in on the teacher training days that the new staff, the new faculty, or the new alumni would have. And I think my favorite way this started was when they had all of the new teachers, the new staff, and the new alumni. They would sit there and they would all be in a big hall waiting, and some HR people would walk in. And I do remember that the HR person walked in, turned, and went, "Right, do not fuck the students." That was the first thing they said. Like, just get that in there immediately. Which is exactly what we didn't want the teachers to do. But I'm glad they set those expectations extremely early. And you could see some of the teachers there were like, drat. Foiled again. Can confirm, worked as a drama technician, the academics were so full of themselves. Yeah, it's very much... I think that people who work in... You can't call it academics, because they hate that. You have to say academia. You have to say work in academia. And the people that work in academia often... I'll tell you a secret. There are a huge amount of teachers and university lecturers that go from education to education to education. And what I mean by that is they go from primary school to high school to college to uni to teaching. They have never existed outside of the educational system. They have never existed outside of the academic system. They have not interacted with people in a corporate nature. They have not interacted in a customer service nature. They have not interacted in an IT nature. They have not interacted in a hospitality nature. And this means that they are absolutely terrible at dealing with human beings who are not entirely raised within the academic or the educational system. The best teachers I have ever had were people who were not entirely education dependent their whole lives. They were people who had done some schooling, done some real jobs, done some real work, done some shit jobs, had some crazy life experience, and then come to teach. They were the best people. Like, remember any time from your school days, most of us will have normally an older gentleman or an older woman who was teaching and was just the best teacher with the best stories. Because I guarantee they were the people that went out and did stuff with their lives before they came back to teach. People that have just gone straight away from college to teacher training to uni, they are products of a system which is designed to continue to facilitate itself. That's it. It just keeps constantly churning out more and more and more and more and more. It never goes out into the real world, gets humbled, gets broken down, gets rebuilt, and then gets put back into the system to teach with life experience. Doesn't school teach you theory? Absolutely. Good teachers who come straight from the schools would only have the theory to offer. The amount of teachers who have told me the theory about something who absolutely do not understand how it works. And then the amount of teachers who come up and gone, they've said, I've no idea what the theory is, but here's the reality of it. Thank you. Most of your teachers lied, cried, some even drank. We had a teacher at my high school who would always come in drunk, and he was the best English teacher. I learnt more with him because he would do all of the voices for all the stories we were reading. He was fantastic. Then, of course, he got fired for being drunk on the job, but you know what? While we had him, spot on. Fantastic teacher. Oh, God. At least drama lecturers had a portfolio and some experience. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Like, I really did not get on with a lot of guest lecturers. My university just cycled through instructors. The one actual drama teacher that we had that was an actual actor, which I trained with for 3 years, was a guy called Rajesh James. Or Raji James, Rajijames. If you guys watched, he was either in EastEnders or Coronation Street, and then he was in Doctor Who for a bit, and then he was in a film called East is East. He's done quite a lot of stuff recently. He was in the Day of the Triffids film a while back. But Raji James was one of the best teachers I have ever had at any subject, because he had so much actual real-world knowledge and actual real-world experience and knew so many people. And the first time I acted in front of him, he kind of pulled me aside and went, "Josh, you're a bit shit, but there's promise. So let's give this a go." And then I just kind of listened and learned as much as I possibly could from him. Don't get me wrong, that hurt my ego massively. I'm like, holy shit, man, I'm really sad now. But then he taught me so much stuff. And through listening to him, I gained a massive amount of experience. It was quite weird because the other people in my university class knew who he was before we got there. They were like, "Oh my God, we're going to train with Raji James. He's been in all these TV shows." I'm like, I have no idea who this guy is. You know, I do not know. One of my favorite things I ever heard him say was a student walked up to ask him a question, and Raji turned around straight away and went, "Hello, young thing." And the kid just went, "Can you remember my name?" And there was a moment and Raji went, "Have you given me a reason to?" And I just thought, oh, damn. He hasn't given him a reason to. He doesn't know who he is. He doesn't need to. What a beautiful challenge to throw down. God damn. From that moment forward, I worked as bloody hard as I could in his class to give him a reason. And you know what? He was the only person that you could email at like 2 a.m. And he would respond to you, because for some reason he just never slept. Right, Brother Anton wants me to go and kill a load of stuff. I can go and do that. Josh, in drama universities, do you believe there's an inherent sense of classism and elitism between the haves and the have-nots? Oh God, yeah, without doubt. Like, I went on a trip to Oxford and Cambridge, which I did not go to a great university, but I learned a lot there. So I went to a trip to Oxford and Cambridge, which is generally referred to as Oxbridge in the UK, and there is definitely a societal look down on a lot of the kids that didn't necessarily come from wealth. Now, they tend to band together, of which I was one of. But then you get the kids whose parents' names are blue on Wikipedia. And then you get the kids who knew this or knew that or got in from this or got in from that, or the kids who, you know, had the, oh yes, their father runs the local polo group kind of thing. But yeah, there absolutely is. I've spoken about this so much before and so many times about why people say, what I used to hate, and I would argue with my university about this so much. So we had a whole lesson. Hang on, I'm going to read some more chat first. You had one history teacher who spent many years dismantling and rebuilding the whole history program. Excellent. 80% guy was a legend. Best teacher you ever had. Good stories. One thing that I will point out is if any teacher ever boasts that their class has a low pass rate, that is not a good sign. They're basically saying that they're not good at teaching their own material. You'll get some teachers who go, just so you know, only 10% of people pass this class. And I'm like, wow, you're a bit shit then. You should probably be higher than that, shouldn't it? Like, if you're saying that you are only going to let 10% of people pass your class in order to keep the pass rate exclusive, then you are not selling a level of knowledge. You are immediately trying to cultivate a level of elitism. You're saying, right, only the top 10% will pass. Why? What if the top 10% are all shit? Because then you're still letting people who shouldn't pass through, or you're failing people who absolutely should pass. You're gatekeeping education behind an arbitrary number. Just if someone knows the material and can pass, let them pass. You don't need to say, I am going to reduce the amount of people that pass in order to keep the pass rate exclusive. Just, if you pass the test, let them do it. Yeah. I mean, there's an old joke. What do you call the bottom 10% of people who graduate medical school? Doctor. As long as they graduate, they've graduated. That's fine. Anyway, to get through to pull this back to some of the stories about education in general. We used to have a class that was discussing the philosophy of drama, the philosophy of art, the philosophy of society, education, all that jazz, all that connection. And for some reason, one of the lecturers that we had, they were a guest lecturer, they kept going on about how there needs to be more working class actors. We need to see more of the working class. They were very posh. We need to see more of the working class of Britain be able to be represented within the performing arts. And I think this person was a relatively moneyed, wealthy individual who'd set themselves up as the champion of the working class. And they were like, more working class actors need to be seen. And I thought on what they said for a long time, and I absolutely 100% disagreed with their method. I 100% agree that there do indeed need to be more chances for working class actors. But then I started to ask questions. I started to say, well, why aren't there? Why aren't there more working class actors? When I say working class from England, I mean people that rely on a monthly income or a monthly wage to be able to survive on the minimum. Now, even people who are in middle class, I mean, because England is still a very class-based society, believe it or not. People who are still within the middle class, they don't not work. They're not landed gentry. It's just normally a class of people who could lose their job and be okay for a few weeks to a few months. And I started to think, why aren't there more working class actors? Where have they all gone? And then I thought, well, let's imagine that you want to be an actor. You're not going to be working all the time. There's no way that you've got a job all the time. No actor is working all the time, unless they're like Hollywood elite. So they get minor roles in TV shows, in smaller films. We call them jobbing actors, where they just kind of keep bringing the money in. But you normally have to go to an audition to be able to get a part. What happens if you haven't got a part? Well, then you've got to get a regular job for a bit. Normally bartending. There's actually an entire industry within the UK built around offering short-term contracts for people who are doing jobbing acting stuff. Neil Newbon famously talks about the fact that he worked within a catering company for a long time who worked with actors specifically. But I started to think, why aren't there more working class actors? Well, it's because the lifestyle that will provide benefit to an actor is often one of privilege. Traveling to an audition is expensive. Taking time off from your day job to do an audition is a risk, because you may not get the audition, but you also may lose the income from the day job. The ability to travel around the country, the ability to take time off as and when you need it, the ability to take a risk on something that may not pay dividends very quickly at all. That is all incredibly privileged. The most powerful thing that you could have to make it as an actor is money. You have enough of that, you can go to enough auditions. You can just brute force it. You can write your own film, you can fund your own film, you can make your own company. You can be in whatever you want because somebody else wants your money as well. That works there too. Having your parents know the producers definitely helps. All that jazz. So when I started to think, why aren't there more working class actors? The answer was simple. They're all at work. Why wear a dress shirt at home? Because I value myself. Like I said, my parents definitely gave me some form of tism. Unfortunately, it was the ore variety and not the Nepo kind. A lot of people look up to you and will learn a lot listening to me express myself. I like to hope that people are able to see not necessarily the things that I tell them to do, but the way that I do it, and see if they can take that and use that for their own benefit. There was a moment many years ago where I realized, I think, why I liked teaching and why I enjoyed it. And it was the simplest moment that I overheard. And this was back when I was a martial arts instructor. This is not a joke, this is a real story. Back when I was doing the martial arts instructing, I started off teaching kids classes, because you normally do that. You know, my instructor was in the corner teaching the adults class. I took the smaller kids group to the side and taught them stuff. And in my mind, I'm thinking, right, I've got to teach them the correct position for punches. I've got to teach them the correct position for kicks. I've got to teach them blocks. I've got to teach them katas, all that kind of stuff. And there was one little kid, and they couldn't quite get the left and right stance down. So I spent ages just doing kind of fun drills that effectively taught them left and right. That was it. I was thinking, right, when I can't teach them left and right fighting stance unless they know they're left and right. So all I can do right now is just teach this kid left and right. That's it. And at the end of the lesson, I felt like I hadn't made much progress at all. I thought, right, these kids don't know that much more than they came in with. In my mind, in my martial arts teacher mind, I'm thinking, right, they're not actually advancing. But when that kid's dad came to pick him up, the kid ran up to his dad, and I just remember him saying, Dad, I know my left and right. And then he showed him the other stances. And the dad kind of walked over and we had a quick conversation. Basically, he'd been trying to teach him the left and right and just couldn't do it. And I thought, what I thought I was teaching, punches, kicks, blocks, grabs, kata, none of that is going to be anywhere near as relevant to that kid in his life as just knowing left and right. That's it. And that's when I thought, okay, maybe what I'm teaching isn't necessarily the thing that I'm teaching. Maybe it isn't what I think it is. Maybe it's going to be something that I'm not even thinking about as valuable. Maybe it's something that I'm not going to think about as super important. But it's going to be the process that we go through within that. It's going to be the lessons that we learn within that process that matter. And Bellaby, first time watching, working from home. Hey, enjoying the goat mummy vibes while debugging a horrendous database code. Well, I will tell you stories of my life while you debug the code. There we go. I think there was another story, and this is, again, a really valuable one to me. I was teaching a drama club after school in one of the schools I was teaching in. And it was just like a general drama club. Parents are going to pick the kids up an hour or two late. They've got to stick them in an after-school club. May as well use the drama club. And we were talking about, various theatre stuff. And the kids were from like 10 to about 14-ish. And one of the girls that was in that club, I can't remember her name, but she was very bossy, very boisterous, very loud. And after meeting her mum, I knew where she got it from. But one day after kind of the club was winding down, she came up to me quite quietly and she was like, Mr. Hayes, I don't think people like me very much. And so I said, what makes you think that? And they're like, well, they don't invite me to their groups. I can see them doing this. I can see them doing that. I don't feel like I'm involved in this. So we sat down and we just had a long conversation. And I said, well, what you suggest is often right. And you've got these ideas and you've got all these passions and you've got all these things that you keep bringing to groups. But what you are really going to have to focus on is the fact that what people remember is not necessarily what you tell them. It's sometimes how you make them feel. It's how easy you are to work with. It's how much you are willing to compromise. It's about understanding and connecting with that person rather than telling that person what they need to be doing because you think you've solved that problem already. And we had a long conversation and she said, so what should I do? Should I just be wrong? And I went, no, you don't need to be wrong. But you need to help them understand that you want to be right for the benefit of all of you and you're willing to work with them and not just kind of ride roughshod over them and tell them what to do. So the next time you're in a group, it's okay to let someone else take lead. It's okay to suggest things, but just try and focus not on succeeding, but on working as a team. And she went, okay, I'll do that. And then a couple of months later, when I finished teaching at that school, I do remember her coming up to say to me and saying that that was one of the most helpful things that someone had sat down and said to her. Because it's terrifying for an 11 or 12-year-old girl to walk up to a male teacher and say, people don't like me, what do I do? Because most teachers would just immediately go, oh, just be nice to them and then walk off. But I'm like, no, she's asked me a question. It's a complicated answer, but she's not an idiot. Let's work this out. And she wasn't an idiot at all. And I think that was why I thought it was more valuable than her necessarily understanding, the Stanislavskian method. That was much more important. Teachers have massive egos. The best is when teachers in primary schools forget that they aren't with primary school kids anymore. My favorite was back when I was in uni, I was walking with a teacher friend of mine. She was working at a local primary school and we went to cross the road, and normally she obviously crosses the road with the kids of the class when she's walking them to and from places when they go on school visits. And as soon as I get to the edge of the road, she just goes, stop! And I'm like, what's wrong? What's happened? And it takes her a moment and she's like, sorry, I'm just in the mode where I'm with the kids and that's what I would have to say if the kids were crossing the road. And I'm like, don't Don't apologize. That's doing something. Let's bring that attitude out more. Pyrocynical has gifted 20 subscriptions. Right after I told the story of my friend, the primary school teacher, being dominating as I'm crossing the road. You couldn't have timed it worse. I'm going to be real with you, bro. Could not have timed that worse. Now that's going to be a clip, and that's going to precede the clip, and this is going to kind of supersede the clip. Thanks, man. How have you been? Of all the stories, we have had so much intellectual discussion going on in this entire stream. It's over. It's straight up over. We've had so much intellectual discussion. We've been talking about things. We've been talking about space. We've been talking about dinosaurs. And you've been sat there. You've been sat there biding your time thinking, I'm going to wait until Josh says an embarrassing story. I'm going to wait until he tells a story that doesn't need to be clipped. And then I'm going to, boom, I'm going to get it on livestream failed right there. This stream has been a roller coaster. It really has. How have you been, bro?